My name is Caitlin Horner. I go by Katie Horner. We are currently in Napoleon, or southeast of Napoleon, North Dakota, on the farm that I grew up.
And what are you doing right now? Are you working on the farm?
I just graduated college in April, and I am back on the farm where I help my dad out, and I also took a job in Napoleon as an accountant at a law firm, as a bookkeeper at a law firm where I work 20 hours right now there a week. And I also sell Ray hybrid seeds on the side.
And why did you want to come back and work on the farm? What about the farm do you like? What attracted you?
Well, when I started growing up, I was with my dad and my grandpa a lot. Being the oldest of the family, I was always outside, and my family likes to push agricultural, so we were never really in the house sitting around or watching TV. There's always something to do. And my dad started pushing me to work on equipment and work more outside, which threw me to the farming aspect. And my getting up where I'm 19 now, my grandpas are starting to retire, and they're the ones that asked me before I graduated high school, if you're really going to go into this, like, we'd like to talk and try to help you out if you want to stick with agriculture. And that's what drove me the most. I never really was interested in anything else in high school for like nursing or anything big like that. I was more driven towards the farming aspect or the bookkeeping aspect of it.
Katie, you talked about meeting with your grandparents or your grandfathers, talking about agriculture in the future. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that, and tell me if you'd like to have land of your own in the future?
I started talking with my grandparents when I wanted to, or when I was graduating high school, and they asked me, they said they want to slow down. One of my grandparents go down to Arizona in the wintertime, so they wanted to start cutting back so they could have more time down there. And they knew that it'd be a lot for my dad to take over, so they would like me to step in if I really wanted to. So that's what we talked about the most. And I did take on that. I started renting some of their land this year, and in the future, I would like to look to own some of my own land as well as still rent some.
Okay, do you think, and obviously this is the future, but do you see yourself like maybe by yourself, having land, having agricultural land, and would you be comfortable with that?
Well, seeing the assets that have to be put into farming, I don't know if I see myself by myself in the future. I see myself staying with my dad and possibly marrying a farmer myself to start our own family on our farm and push farming. But I do definitely see me staying with my dad, working with my dad, sharing equipment. So that way I don't have to take all the assets on myself. We can just help each other back and forth.
I mean, it's pretty daunting when you think about all the expenses of running a farm, isn't it?
Yeah, it's crazy, the expenses, especially with the technology that's coming out. You can't get anything cheap anymore.
Tell me a little bit about the technology. What type of technology do you like to use?
Well, the number one technology thing that gets used the most on the farm is our cell phones. If you break down or if you need something, you call right away. You don't go run after them to find them. The other farming thing that we use the most is GPS and the tractors. That gets used in every single tractor we have. Every equipment, it all gets used GPS. It's the simplest thing to do. I can't imagine not using GPS back in the days.
When your mom talks about being on a tractor and getting a sunburn and being in an open cab, what do you think when you hear about that?
Well, sun tanning is nice, but we also go camping and we have to take care of cows, so I'll definitely take the sun tanning then, but sitting in the tractor for 8 hours a day, I like the air conditioning and the radio.
How about cows? Do you like cows like your mom does?
Yeah, I do like cows a lot. I have about 40 cows of my own, so I'm out there a lot with the cows. My mom is a lot more into calving than I am. We take shifts checking cattle. I'll do them during the night shifts, and my parents do during the day shifts. But I'm definitely out there helping if anything goes wrong or if we need help with a calf or feeding. I feed every morning with my dad.
Do you get attached to the cows?
Oh yeah. When I was in 4-H, I started showing cattle, and that's probably the hardest thing to do because all the time that has to be put into it, and after you're done showing your cattle, you need to do something with them, sell them. If it's a steer, you either have to butcher them or sell them or keep them, I guess. It's up to you. Heifers, it was a lot easier to do because you could keep them as cows. I have a couple right now that I have as cows that I tamed down and showed myself. So that's nice, but the steer aspect of it was a lot harder seeing them go because you get attached even when you don't tame them down. Just if something goes wrong, if you have a cow that's open or something, it's hard to let them go because they've been in your herd so long.
Why don't you tell me about 4-H, the importance of 4-H to you and what you've done in 4-H?
I was in 4-H for 12 years. That's where I showed my cattle, was through 4-H, and I did a lot of projects and going to meetings. Is a lot of 4-H. I also learned a lot of leadership skills and talking skills through 4-H because we did a communication competition, and it was just a lot of, leading, like doing stuff. And as you got older, you had to show the younger people what to do and how to do it, and it was a lot of fun.
And you won a couple of awards in 4-H?
Oh yeah, I did quite a bit in 4-H. A lot of it in 4-H you got was just grand champions, especially with showing cattle. That was my goal, was to get a grand champion with everyone that I showed. And a lot of it was ribbons and stuff, but it was all, and when I was younger, in my mind, that was winning.
Where would you have shown the cattle?
In Napoleon. I showed cattle in Napoleon. We had an achievement days there that we showed. I also went down to Wishick to the Tri-County Fair 1 or 2 years. And then I was fortunate enough to win a heifer at the Denver Stock Show. She's a South Devon heifer that I won 4 years ago. So when I had to go down and accept her. So when I went down to accept her, I got to show her then. And I brought her home for the year, and I had to keep working with her. And the following year, I had to take her back down to Denver again to show her again. So it was quite an experience. That's the high end of showing down there. And it was crazy to see how much stress people put into it.
So you said you went to college. Why don't you tell us where you went to college and what you studied?
I went to college at Bismarck State College. I studied farm and ranch management, and during that I also did a little bit of accounting background just because when I was thinking about my future, I want to farm, but if I get married to a farmer, obviously times are tough right now, and you aren't both going to make it farming strictly. So coming back to Napoleon, there are some places you could get jobs as an accountant, and I was just happy enough to find one when I was in college. I worked at the place in Bismarck, and they had a firm in Napoleon as well. So I just kind of stepped my foot into there, and hopefully it keeps growing from there.
Did your parents encourage you to go to college?
Yeah, right away, when everybody asked me if I was going to college and what for, it was kind of I don't know, people say that you don't really learn that much because it's all new technology, there's new stuff every day, which is true, but they did push me. They said at least go for the experience and have fun, and that's what I did, and it was good.
How do you think that your life and where you are now is different than what your mom's life when she was growing up on the farm?
Well, growing up now, the technology is a lot different, so I'd say that's the number one thing that changes between my mom and I. Having the same rules and stuff, there's not much that you could change with that depending who you are on the farm. You still have to feed, you have to do the same routine every day. The biggest thing I'd say is the technology that she wouldn't have grown up with, that I grew up with, and I have to keep up to speed with.
And you're happy you grew up with that?
Yeah.
Did you have to pick up rocks when you were a kid?
No, I did not really pick up rocks. We have a rock picker that's on the cab tractor right now, so that's about as most as we got to picking up rocks with that. I had to pick up a few rocks when we would gravel the yard or doing our feedlot, but a lot of it was not back-breaking. It was using the tractor.
Your mom was easy on you.
Yeah.
What do you feel about cooking?
I do not do anything in the house. That's the number one thing I tell people is I don't do anything in the house. My siblings or my mom does it all. I'm always outside. If people ask me about anything about food, it's no clue. It goes right over my head, which people think is crazy because my grandma Marge is an excellent cook and she cooks all the time. They think that you should just follow her footsteps, and I was more with my dad and my grandpa where I stuck outside and I came in the house saying, "What's for dinner?" I'm not making anything.
I was wondering about you and Grandma Marge, but she probably tried, didn't she?
She's tried showing me some stuff, but it hasn't gone very far.
probably the last question, unless you say something I want to follow up on. But so, what encouragement would you give to young girls that might be watching this out here about if they were interested in agriculture? What do you think? Why they should be interested in agriculture and what path they should take?
Agriculture is a hard path. There's a lot of ups and downs, especially the markets. But if it's something you love and something you want to do, you should stick to it. I chose agriculture because of my dad and my grandpa, and they showed me what hard work is and dedication, and that's something that you need to put into farming is dedication, especially with cattle. You have to be by their side when they're calving and stick with them. Farming, you have to stay with the crops, you have to manage them. So a lot of it is dedication. It's just something that I like to do, and that's why I'm in it. So if it's something that you think you like to do, give it a try. The worst that could happen is you're in a job at a desk later on if you don't like it.
You talked about your dad and your grandfather doing stuff with them. What sort of inspiration has your mom given you about farming?
My mom has pushed me, especially in 4-H and FFA. She's been the one that's pushed agriculture a lot and helping dad. There's times where we'll be in the house and mom's like, I'm sure dad needs help, or go outside. She's also showed me dedication to saving calves' lives. She's out there if there's a calf that's sick, she's there to treat it or help it. And she's pushed, especially with the cows and calves, she's pushed on how to stay dedicated and how to raise cattle on a farm.
Very nice testimonial. Do you know? FFA.
FFA used to be Future Farmers of America. It's now currently FFA because they didn't think the farmers part had to be in there. I started that when I was in 7th grade. I started with livestock judging, and my advisor, Brian Schneider, pushed me a lot just because he knew my parents were a big agricultural family, and he saw what I could excel in, which I didn't see right away at 7th grade. I thought this was ridiculous. So I did livestock judging for 4 years, and eventually we won state where we got to go to nationals and compete in that. Then I went to egg sales after that, and I did that for a year. That was my senior year, and we ended up winning state by 0.5. It was crazy. We won state, went to nationals where we had to sell John Deere balers, I thought I was in heaven because I knew everything about the baler because I run the baler all the time on the farm. So we sold those, and we ended up winning nationals where I took 4th. I was also on the state winning parliamentary team with Robert's Rules of Orders. So FFA has really given me the speaking skills that I have and showing me to push my limits. If you stick to something, you can get it achieved. It's helped me a lot.